Hi, I'm Sailor Eric. I recently brought 2 riggers from an esteemed Chicago boatyard for an evening sail on Silverheels. The wind was 12 to 15 knots from the east, and we put up 3 sails. The riggers enjoyed themselves, but also provided some guidance for things to be improved on Silverheels, my 1978 Pearson 424 Ketch. Some of these things I'll be implementing today for you to see. So join me today and learn a little bit about rigging. Also, for my subscribers, I just wanted to say thank you for your support. To keep this video from being too long, I cut it down to really focus on one of the items I did on that day. That would be swapping out the reefing lines. So this video will specifically focus on swapping out the reefing lines on the Main. So the first thing the riggers commented on was how these reefing lines right here are affixed to the boom, because they are kind of permanently or semi-permanently affixed. One end of the line, of the reefing line, is brought around that thimble, the working end, and it is then sewn on. Basically a whipping is created on the working end side to affix it to the other end of the line here. I want to take a moment to get the terminology correct. When you take one end of a line and you create a loop and then use thread and wrap it around, that is called a seizing, not a whipping. So I'm referring to a whipping there, but it's actually a seizing. When you use thread and wrap it around to terminate a line, that is a whipping. So again, I'm referring it to a whipping, but what I'm actually pointing at there is a seizing. You can see yarn or twine is basically wrapped around to make that super tight and semi-permanent. So that this has been affixed to the boom since I have owned Silverheels, and basically the reefing lines stay on the boom. And the rigger had a concern with that. He said that, you know, if you have some sort of issue out here where you just need to take that line off from the working end back here, that's not easy to do, especially with this one over here, right, which does not have a shackle. It's actually sewn right there onto the eye on the boom. So he said, you know, that's not great, and the load bearing abilities of a bowline knot are just as good, and it's much easier to take out. So his suggestion was cut these off and instead replace them with just bowline knots on the reefing line. All right, before putting these shackles away, these shackles are spares I have on Silverheels. I always want to maintain a lot of spares because I anticipate the possibility of taking Silverheels out on oceans. So having spares is important, and you can see behind me the spare shackles I have aboard. And I took those out on that evening sail with the riggers because they did notice that pin that was out of the housing. It had unscrewed itself out of the housing of that shackle on the reefing line. So I pulled out these spares, but with pliers and a little bit of torque, they got that pin back in. So we didn't have to replace that shackle. Nonetheless, we're gonna cut off those rigging lines and replace it with a simple bowline knot moving forward. Here are a number of spare lines I keep on Silverheels in case I need to replace any rigging in a pinch. Some of the lines are newer and made of newer synthetic fibers. Some of the lines are less expensive than others. All of the lines are of a polyester or synthetic type, which is suitable for sheets or standing rigging. Newer lines with newer fibers are going to be stronger than older lines, which means that what used to be managed by a wider diameter line might now be managed by a slightly smaller gauge. Nylon line is meant for docking and is made to stretch more. These polyester lines should not stretch much at all. For reefing, since reefing lines are not under constant load and are often unused, a less expensive polyester or synthetic line of similar diameter would make sense. All right, this is newer line, though it is less expensive, and that is 3/8. That might be the ticket. I might use this lesser expensive 3/8 diameter line to replace that 7/16 line up there, because it's not really going through heavy loads all the time. It has limited turns. It's going through maybe one block and otherwise getting winched in. I think that's probably the line. I did put a label on it, which is great, and it confirms 3/8 inch. This is 50 feet of double braided poly line. All right, the block that I'm going through here is behind me. You can see it. And again, the diameter of the line is a factor because you want the block to support the line. So you can see that this block supports a 7/16 diameter line. I'm gonna go 1/16 less is my current plan, which isn't great because you want to have the blocks kind of perfectly lined up with the hardware supporting the lines. They're designed to support a certain line. But 1/16 off for a reefing line where I'm doing one turn then going straight up the mast, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But anyway, I'm going to give that a go. And again, it's only used when reefing. It is important that it works when it's reefing. I think that'll be okay. Okay, here the reefing line is cleated to the boom near the mast itself. We're going to take that and we're going to pull it back to the aft part of the boom and then cut that off. All right, we're now going to pull all this slack of this line you just saw us, and it's going to go through, you can hear it going through a block which is right below, right here, right? It's going through that block, which again looks to be 7/16 block. I just got the working end out, and now I've got the entire line over here. I can now pull that working end through this eyelet, right? There you go. That's the entire length. So when I replace this, it's going to come from inside out like this, and then over, and then it's going to go back through that block. I thought I was going to need a pair of pliers to take this off, but I think I just pull this out. Yep. So there, that thimble came out just like that. Bing, bang, boom. All right, I'm committing to this newer line. It's slightly smaller. It's 3/8 instead of 7/16. I'm committing to it. I'm going to take an action here, and we're going to cut this line at this point. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to get a lighter. Okay, that's not really doing a good job. Let's see if this lighter will work. It's a better lighter. Yep. You can see it's doing its job here, burning those ends. And that just prevents the fray from just getting too significant. It basically terminates the ends and seals off that fray on the end. So that's a nice butane lighter. Did its job. It's a kitchen lighter, but it works out here. Now those ends are going to get super hot, and I'm just going to let them cool now. All right, this has been cut and committed. So now I'm going to tie a bowline knot. There you go. Yep. That's it. It's bone. Okay, now we're gonna grab this line. Right, we're gonna find the working end. We're gonna bring it through this eyelet, which is reef 1. Okay, now we got that. Now we're gonna bring the working end and bring it through the block that is over on the other side. Okay, so now we're gonna go through that block. We're gonna pull that all the way through. Okay, so here that's coming through the block now. And you can see that that is a little bit smaller than what that block can handle. Alright, this other reefing line is on a pin. I told you the riggers. Took pliers to this thing. There you go. Which now I'm addressing. Yeah, there is a little bend in this pin. But now I'm going to take this line off, right? This is reef line 2. Well, maybe this shackle is still usable, so I guess I'll keep that as a spare now. We'll set this down. This line, it turns out I had this last length after I cut this one piece. The other piece is enough to replace that second line. That's good news in a way because it saves expense in buying line, but it is the same color. So I think I'm going to try to use electrical tape and then maybe try to mark one red or one blue, the other one yellow, to tell them apart so that it's easy when you reef to tell them apart at the terminal points. Because reefing 1 is bringing down about 1/3 of the sail and reef 2 is bringing down about half of the sail, and you want to know that when you're reefing. Alright, we're going to tie another bowline. See if I do a better job this time. That's how I do. Okay. So that's bowline number 2. And that is going to come through the second reef point. Which is over here. Okay, so this guy is going to get pulled. This guy's going to get pulled through. Out. Okay. Now, feed him through this eye and sail. Hopefully you can see. Alright, reefing point 2 is yellow, and it's going to go in this block right here and get fed down. Alright, now you can see that that reefing point pulls in this eyelet, which is reefing point 2, and that takes down about half the sail. So now this line gets fed up along the deck, along the boom, and we can use this winch here to winch it in if we have to, and we terminate it up here on a cleat. Some of the tools I used during the filming of this video include a rigger's knife, a butane lighter, and polyester double braided line. So I will include links to those products in the description in case you're interested to look up how much they cost or where they're available. I appreciate you spending some time with me during this fine sunny Sunday at Monroe Harbor. And that concludes the video for today, or the things I'm going to cover. So I wish you fair winds and following seas.